Modern professional forehand loops are all about the sweeping loop, staying low and sweeping across the ball parallel to the table. Let me demonstrate on a backspin ball. I'm sweeping low across the tabletop. Same principle for the backhand. Why does your loop against a backspin push sometimes go into the net and sometimes go long? It's often because amateur players can't accurately read the spin on the incoming push. Let me give you an example. If you treat a light spin ball like this as heavy backspin and add power, you'll definitely loop it long. Conversely, if your opponent pushes with heavy spin and you try to power loop it, you'll hit it straight into the net. So, you must adapt your loop based on the different spins your opponent uses. First, the principle for heavy backspin: focus on 3 things. Number 1, lower your center of gravity. If you're positioned behind a heavy backspin ball instead of below it, you are very likely to loop it into the net. Even with an upward follow-through, you'll still hit the net. Second, you must generate more spin. Use your fingers and wrists to increase the brushing contact on the ball. Focus on brushing the ball securely first. Don't worry about power. Your priority is to avoid an unforced error. The third key is your timing. For a heavy spin ball, should you contact it at the peak of the bounce, on the rise, or just as it starts to fall? That's right. Contact it just after the peak. You have to understand, if you stand too close to the table waiting for a heavy backspin ball to drop, you'll get jammed. So, after you serve, take a step back and wait for the ball to start falling. This makes the shot much easier. Step back and wait for the falling phase. Even if the ball is fast, let it drop slightly to better synchronize your body's power with the shot. See? I can wait, then engage. That's how you handle heavy spin. To recap for heavy spin: 1. Get your body and racket lower than the ball. 2. Time your contact for the falling phase. 3. Ensure your brushing contact is solid and deep. Don't rush the power. First, grip the ball with your rubber, brush it thickly, then think about accelerating your forearm forward. Your first goal is consistency. That's the first key point. The second point is handling a no-spin or light spin ball. Here, you need to focus on a few different things. If your opponent just pushes the ball with no spin, try to contact it from behind. If you get under it, you'll loop it long. When I'm directly behind the ball, my consistency improves greatly. Second, to avoid hitting it long when you add power, pay attention to the direction of your force. After contacting the ball, your motion must be forward, with a closed racket angle, not upward with an open angle. This prevents the ball from flying long. See? Drive forward while closing the racket face. Third, you still need to brush the ball to control it. Don't think a no-spin ball requires no friction. Most errors come from hitting the ball too flat. You need to brush it with a closed racket angle. Don't flick your wrist or fingers, generate spin through rapid forearm acceleration. For a heavy spin loop, we use our fingers to help grip the ball and accelerate the brush. But for a light spin ball, you keep the racket angle closed and use a quick forearm snap forward to brush the ball. You don't need extra wrist or finger action. Adding too much of that will result in a weak, ineffective shot. See? Keep the angle closed. Now, let's summarize why you often loop the ball long or into the net. Let's start with hitting it long. When looping backspin, should your racket face be more open or more closed? Look at my stroke. Is my racket angle open or closed? Let me ask you, can you drive forward with an open racket angle? Watch what happens. The trajectory doesn't arc down onto the table, it just keeps flying upward. Your racket angle is too open. So as soon as you use your body and generate power, the ball goes long. This forces you to stop your follow-through early or make other incorrect adjustments, leading to a flawed technique. While an open racket angle might help you lift the ball as a beginner, that's not a loop, it's a lift. If you take this shortcut, you'll spend much more time correcting bad habits later. For amateur players, I strongly recommend learning the correct technique from the start, as you don't have a coach constantly watching to help you fix your form. Even against backspin, you must keep your racket angle closed and brush the ball. If your racket is open, you can't drive forward. You can only lift or scoop the ball. Only by closing your racket angle can you follow the ball's path and effectively wrap around it on contact. Many players loop long because they hit through the ball with an open racket face. You should be brushing the ball with a closed racket face. With an open angle, you maximize flat impact. With a closed angle, even without a big brushing motion, your forearm drives through the upper part of the ball, naturally creating spin. Look, open racket with 50% power goes long. Closed racket with 50% power lands on the table. With 70% power and a closed racket, you can power loop without errors. But if you try that with an open racket, it will go long. Modern professional forehand loops are all about the sweeping loop, staying low and sweeping across the ball parallel to the table. Let me demonstrate on a backspin ball. I'm sweeping low across the tabletop. Same principle for the backhand. If you don't close your racket angle, you can't generate power, because the ball will just pop up. If you close your racket and the ball still goes into the net, the problem is with your friction, power generation, or timing, not the racket angle itself. If you want to develop a powerful loop like ours and not just a high arc shot, then from your backswing, through contact, to your follow-through, your racket angle must remain consistent. Don't let it flip open. Avoid lifting or scooping with an open racket face. That's incorrect. The second reason for hitting long is swinging with your whole arm. This creates too much momentum against the ball's speed. You're generating power on the backswing and then trying to add more power at contact. There are two ways to fix this. 1. Use a larger backswing but control your power at impact. Or 2. Use a shorter backswing and accelerate more through the ball. I prefer a more compact backswing, because a large swing makes it harder to find the correct contact point. Remember, if you have a big backswing, reduce power on your follow-through. If you have a compact backswing, you can release more power through the shot. With a large backswing, especially on a high ball, you must control your power at contact to avoid overpowering the shot and hitting it long. A third reason for hitting long is lifting your upper arm too much. On your backswing, your upper arm should stop its upward motion around shoulder level. But you're lifting it far too high, up toward your head. This excessive upward movement from the upper arm makes your shots arc too long. Watch. Even if I don't use much power, just by lifting my upper arm too high, the ball's trajectory is too long and it goes out. Think of it this way, the upper arm provides the initial lift, but then it must stop, allowing the forearm to drive forward horizontally. The mistake is continuing to lift the upper arm throughout the entire stroke. Against a heavy backspin, your upper arm might contribute 50% of the lifting action. But against a soft, light spin push, it should only be about 20%. You have to stop the upper arm's lift. Then, it's all forearm. Look, drop, stop the upper arm here, and snap the forearm. This will make your shot much more consistent. So, when your opponent's backspin isn't heavy, you don't need much upward movement from your upper arm. Know when to stop the lift and engage the forearm. The motion is lift, then forward, not a continuous upward swing. For light spin, use more forearm. For heavy spin, use more upper arm to start. Against heavy spin, the upper arm helps lift the arc, then the forearm adds speed. Against light spin, the upper arm stops early. The forearm quickly closes over the ball to control the trajectory. Watch, as the ball comes, I use my forearm to flatten the arc. The fourth reason for hitting long is failing to adjust your power to the incoming ball's pace. For instance, if your opponent pushes deep and fast, and you also swing with full power, you're going to hit it long. So when the ball comes fast, use a more compact swing and less power. If you take a full swing against a fast push, you'll either hit it in the net or long. If it's a fast no-spin ball, you'll hit it long. If it's a fast heavy spin ball, you'll hit it in the net. This applies to topspin rallies too. If your opponent hits hard, and you also hit hard, you'll likely miss long. The simplest method is this: if he hits hard to your forehand, you just need to block or control the ball with a very short stroke. Think of it as a power scale of 1 to 10. If he hits at a 3 to power level, I need to reply with a 7. If he hits it at 7, then I only need to use a 3. If you both go full power against each other, whether it's topspin or backspin, you're maxing out the force and an error is likely. That's another reason you're hitting it long. Now, why do you hit the net? The first reason is you've practiced flat hitting for too long. Your forehand drive is just a flat, forward motion using the forearm. When you try to loop, you just drop your forearm without engaging your upper arm. You're only using a forward and down motion with your forearm, your upper arm isn't creating any vertical lift. To loop backspin, your upper arm needs to drop and then lift. Even if you don't use it a lot, there must be a change in elevation. Your stroke lacks this. Your upper arm stays fixed while your forearm swings. How can you avoid the net? From backswing to contact, your upper arm is completely passive. It should drop with your shoulder, and then lift with your shoulder. There must be vertical movement. Without that vertical movement, you can't create a proper arc. If your brushing technique is also weak, you are guaranteed to hit the net. Why can some players get the ball over by just lifting their arm? Because they are creating a huge arc with their upper arm. They just lift the ball over. It's a low-quality shot. But it's consistent because the upper arm is manufacturing the arc. We don't want to copy that, but we can learn from it. We use the upper arm for the initial lift, but we stop it at the right moment. After the upper arm stops its lift, the forearm takes over. They keep lifting the whole way, we stop it at the correct point. But their initial use of the upper arm is correct. Your stroke has 6 kinetic chain links. If you forget 2, the other 4 can still save the shot. But if you only use 2, you'll have nothing left under pressure. Your upper arm's angle isn't adapting to the ball's trajectory, leading to a forearm-only swing. That's the first problem. The second problem. Your racket must always be lower than the ball at the start of your forward swing. This is how you properly transfer energy into the ball. If your racket is level with the ball, you'll often miss the ball or fail to lift it, because a backspin ball drops quickly after the bounce. You'll have trouble lifting the ball. The ball's downward trajectory is sharpest after it bounces. If you try to add power here, your swing gets faster, causing the ball to slip off your rubber without proper grip. Visually, you must get your body down below the ball. From this low position, you can lift and drive through it, synchronizing your power. So how do you get lower? You have to bend your knees. After your knees are bent, drop your hitting shoulder to get even lower. From there, you can execute the loop correctly. A key checkpoint, during your backswing, your hip and your elbow should be at the same height. You shouldn't be upright. You need to bend your knees and waist. Get your hip and elbow aligned horizontally. That is your fundamental ready position. Watch me demonstrate. Find your elbow with your hip. Bend your knees. Engage your core, drop your shoulder. That's the key to a good forehand loop. The third reason you're hitting the net is timing. You're hitting the ball too early. A ball has the most spin right as it comes off the table on the rise. For backspin, it will rise slightly and then dive down sharply. In contrast, a topspin ball will kick upwards after the bounce. That's why against sidespin topspin, you must contact the ball early, to control it before it kicks away from you. You can't do that with backspin. Hitting it on the rise will send it straight into the net. But if I open my racket angle slightly and just lift, the ball goes over. So against backspin, it's better to be a little late and hit it on the falling phase than to be too early and hit it on the rise. For developing players, mastering this rhythm is crucial. In a match, when you're nervous, you naturally rush. If you train to wait, your match timing will be perfect. If you train to rush, you'll be even faster in a match. In practice, you should intentionally train to hit the ball just after the peak. Don't fall for the myth that you can't power loop from there. Watch, I can wait for the ball to drop and still hit a powerful loop. Why is this easier? Because that extra split second gives you more time to find the ball. What is the falling phase? Hitting the ball right at the top of the bounce is hitting it at its peak. Waiting for it to drop slightly before starting your swing. That is the early falling phase. So, the third key is to slow down your timing slightly. Just a fraction of a second. I don't mean letting the ball drop to the floor. Just make contact slightly later than the absolute peak. Try it. See if your consistency doesn't improve, especially in matches. The fourth reason is poor friction. You're not supposed to hit the ball and then go soft. What's happening is you're tense on the backswing and relaxed at impact. You've got it backwards. It should be, relax, then explode at contact. Why do you go soft? When the ball comes deep or fast, your instinct is to pull back. That withdrawal makes your shot weak. Instead, stay relaxed on the backswing, then snap through the ball at impact. That's the first key point on friction. The next issue is your brushing motion is purely vertical. This is ineffective friction, it's just grazing the ball. Your wrist shouldn't just be moving up and down. Your forearm needs to be driving forward into the ball. Wherever you contact the ball, your brushing motion must be directed forward. It's a combination of forearm drive and wrist action. You have to drive forward and brush at the same time. You must brush into the ball. If I just brush vertically, watch, the ball has absolutely no spin. Even if I do it faster, there's still no spin. Now, watch when I brush forward into the ball. Instantly, it drives forward with a strong arc. Watch, I'll do another one. Your brushing motion must be forward. Your forearm finds the ball, and at that point, you brush forward. You have to brush through the ball, not just up and down on it. That's the second point about friction. The third point is that you're completing your brushing action too early. Right before contact, your wrist should be laid back, ready to snap forward. But many amateur players already have their wrist snapped forward before they even touch the ball. At that point, you can no longer brush the ball effectively. Analyze the moment of contact. Is your hand relaxed and ready to accelerate, or is it already in the follow-through position? I guarantee that over 80% of players are the latter. Their brushing action is already finished. This is because as you swing forward, your hand tenses up and snaps too early, well before contact. Why can I power loop with confidence? Because at the point of contact, my wrist is still back, ready to snap through the ball. Many players, even on a simple high loop, think they are brushing, but their mechanics are off. As you start the forward swing, your hand tenses and you immediately try to create friction. By the time you actually make contact with the ball, your racket head is already pointing up instead of sideways. So, take your phone, record your stroke in slow motion, and focus on your wrist. Are you completing the friction part of the stroke too early? If so, by the time you reach the ball, all you can do is hit or lift it, you can no longer brush it.